In 1974, in a year of drought, a group of farmers were digging a water well near Xi'an, in China. 3 meters down, the shovel struck something hard. It wasn't stone. It was the face of a man made of clay, and it was staring back at them. They didn't know it yet, but they had just punched through the ceiling of the greatest buried secret in history. Beneath that pomegranate field, an entire army lay sleeping. Around 8,000 terracotta soldiers, in battle formation, standing motionless in the dark for more than 2,000 years. And here's the detail that gives you chills. Not one of those 8,000 faces is the same as another. Every soldier has his own features: the nose, the mouth, the hairstyle, the expression. It's as if a real army had turned to clay all at once. Someone shaped every single face, one by one. Hold on to that question. Who did this and why? To understand, we need to go back more than 2,000 years to the kingdom of Qin. And we'll follow a young man who may have existed in thousands of copies, a young terracotta craftsman, one among thousands. His hands are in the clay of these soldiers. Imagine growing up in a pottery workshop. From boyhood, you learn to feel the clay. How much water, how much force, how the heat of the kiln decides whether a piece survives or cracks. You would make tiles, pots, bricks. Ordinary work, done by ordinary people. Until the day the emperor's men arrived in the village. Because above those craftsmen, above everything, there was one man who changed China forever, and who had a single fear. A fear that would consume the rest of his life and build that hidden army. This man was called Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor. Before him, China didn't even exist as a country. It was a scattering of separate kingdoms, locked in constant war for centuries. An age so bloody, it became known as the Warring States. Each kingdom with its own army, its own currency, its own writing. Chaos. The kingdom of Qin was the hungriest and the most disciplined of them all. And its king, a man named Zhang, held an ambition no one before him had dared to dream: to swallow all the others. Not to dominate them, to unify them, to make them all into one. In 221 BC, he did it. The last rival kingdom fell. For the first time in history, all of China stood under a single ruler. And Zhang gave himself a title no king had ever used: Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor. He was 38 years old, but conquering was the easy part. Now he held an immense territory where every region spoke differently, weighed differently, wrote differently. A country that couldn't understand itself. So the emperor did something brilliant. He began to standardize everything. He unified the writing. Suddenly, a document written in one corner of China could be read in the other, even if the people there spoke different dialects. That unified script bound China together as one people. In part, that's why China is still China to this day. He standardized the currency, a single round coin with a square hole in the middle, valid across the whole empire. He standardized weights and measures. He even standardized the width of cart axles, so every wagon fit the same ruts worn into the roads. He was, quite literally, programming a country from scratch. And he built one of the most famous structures on the planet. The old kingdoms had each raised their own walls of packed earth against invaders from the north. Qin Shi Huang ordered those walls linked into one gigantic line. It was the seed of what the world would later know as the Great Wall of China. In just a handful of years, this man unified a continent, standardized a civilization, and began the greatest wall in the world. He must have felt like a god. And that was exactly when fear came knocking. Because a god shouldn't die. And Qin Shi Huang was going to die, like anyone else. The more power he gathered, the more one thought hunted him. What good is ruling the world if death comes for you all the same? The most powerful emperor on earth developed an obsession. He decided that he would not die. He ordered his sages and alchemists to find the secret of eternal life. He sent whole expeditions across the sea in search of magical islands where, it was said, the plant of immortality grew. Some of those expeditions set sail and never came back. And the alchemists, pressured to deliver eternal life, began preparing pills of immortality. The main ingredient in many of them was a bright, silvery substance that seemed almost magical: mercury. The emperor began swallowing mercury, believing it would let him live forever. Here lies one of the cruelest ironies in history. Mercury is a poison. In small, continuous doses, it attacks the brain, the nerves, the organs. The very medicine meant to grant eternal life was, slowly, killing the man who took it. But the emperor was a practical man. While chasing eternal life, he also built a plan B, in case death came for him anyway. And what a plan B! He decided to build, beneath the earth, an entire world where he would go on reigning after death. And that was when the lives of those craftsmen changed forever. Artiso, the emperor's recruiters, swept the country for anyone who knew how to work clay. A young craftsman like you would be taken from your family's workshop to a construction site near the capital. What he saw when he arrived took the breath from his chest. It wasn't a construction site. It was a city of labor. It's estimated that 700,000 workers passed through that project over the years. 700,000. Diggers, potters, blacksmiths, sculptors, haulers, a human anthill swarming across the horizon. The work had begun years earlier, when the emperor was still a boy king of 13, and it would drag on for nearly 40 years. People were born, grew old, and died working in that place, without ever seeing it finished. Artiso, you would be placed in one of the soldier workshops, and there he discovered the secret of the 8,000 different faces. The bodies were made in parts, like a system of components. Legs, torsos, arms, heads, molded in series and then assembled. Artiso, but the face was different. Once assembled, each soldier received a finishing touch by hand. The craftsman sculpted ears, lips, eyebrows, wrinkles, mustaches, giving each figure a unique face. That's why no two are alike. Every one passed through human hands, one by one. Artiso, and it wasn't only faces. The soldiers came in types: kneeling archers, spearmen, cavalrymen, officers, generals, each with the posture, the clothing, and the hairstyle of his rank. A craftsman learned to read that army like a book. You could tell a man's rank by the height of his cap. Artiso, each figure was the size of a real man, or larger. The tallest stood over 6 feet. And they were heavy. Each soldier weighed hundreds of pounds of fired clay. The craftsmen spent days just to finish one piece. And there were thousands. There's a detail almost no one imagines when they see the photos. Today the soldiers are that clay color, a grayish yellow. But in the beginning they were not like that. Every soldier was painted in strong, vivid colors. Red, green, blue, purple, pink. The faces had skin tones, the eyes were painted, the uniforms were colored differently by regiment. When they were finished, those 8,000 clay men must have looked like a real army, vibrant and colorful, frozen in the instant before battle. The paint was precious. The craftsmen used pigments made from ground minerals and even rare stones, including an artificial purple that Chinese chemists invented centuries before any other civilization. This army wasn't just enormous. It was a breathtaking work of art. Artiso, and why all this madness? Why an entire army of clay? The foreman's answer was clear. In the ancient belief, the emperor would go on living in the afterlife, and he would need an army to protect him there too. That army was meant to last forever. Before him, powerful kings were buried with real servants and real soldiers, killed to accompany them in death. Flesh that rotted. Qin Shi Huang wanted something better, an army that would never die, never betray him, never tire. So he made it of clay, an immortal army for a man who dreamed of being immortal. And here comes another surprise. Those clay soldiers were not unarmed. In their hands and around them, archaeologists found more than 40,000 real weapons. Not replicas, bronze weapons, sharpened, ready to kill. Swords, spears, axes, arrowheads, and crossbows. The Chinese crossbows of that era were the most advanced military technology on the planet. The firing mechanism, cast in bronze, was so precise that engineers today were left impressed. More impressive still, some of those bronze swords were unearthed after 2,000 years still sharp, without rust. Analysis revealed a protective layer on the surface of the metal. The blacksmiths of Qin had a mastery of bronze that was ahead of their time. the soldiers were not alone. Alongside them, archaeologists found life-sized terracotta horses, more than 500, pulling war chariots. There was cavalry, infantry, command. It was the exact blueprint of a real Qin army, fixed in clay. Artiso, think about what that meant for those craftsmen. Their hands weren't making decoration. They were faithfully recreating the war machine that had conquered China. Every detail of armor, every knot of hair, every lace of a shoe copied a real soldier. It was a portrait of the entire empire, shaped in clay. But the army was only the outer guard. The true treasure lay farther in, beneath a gigantic artificial hill, the real tomb of the emperor. And that's where the story gets truly chilling. About a mile from the clay army rises a great mound of earth, covered in vegetation, looking like a natural hill. It is not natural. It is the ceiling of the first emperor's tomb. And here's the fact that keeps the whole world intrigued. This tomb has never been opened. More than 2,000 years later, with all the technology that exists, with archaeologists desperate to go in, the main chamber remains sealed. No one has set foot inside. Almost everything we know about its interior comes from a single ancient account, written by a Chinese historian named Sima Qian. Sima Qian wrote about 100 years after the emperor's death, and what he describes sounds like legend. He says that inside the tomb a model of the entire empire was built, and that the rivers and the sea of that model were made of liquid mercury, flowing. Mercury, again, the same silvery poison from the pills. According to the account, mechanisms kept those mercury rivers circulating, simulating water. On the ceiling, precious stones formed the sky and the stars. A universe in miniature for the emperor to reign over forever. For a long time this sounded like exaggeration, a story meant to impress. Until modern scientists did something clever. Instead of opening the tomb, they measured the soil around it. And what they found made the jaw drop. The earth above and around the chamber holds absurdly high levels of mercury, far above normal, concentrated exactly over the site of the tomb. In other words, science found the signature of mercury precisely where the ancient account said there would be rivers of mercury. That 2,000-year-old report may be right. And that partly explains why no one opens it. There's the fear of destroying what lies inside just by touching it, as happened with the soldier's paint, which flaked and faded within minutes of contact with the dry air after being excavated. But there's also the mercury. To open that carelessly would be to open a 2,000-year-old poison trap. Add to that the accounts that the tomb was rigged with traps, automatic crossbows ready to fire at anyone who broke in. Real or not, the result is the same. The heart of the first emperor's tomb remains one of archaeology's greatest sealed mysteries. It's there. We know where. And no one goes in. And the emperor? The man who ordered all of this built? His obsession with eternal life exacted its final price. Years of swallowing mercury pills were poisoning Qin Shi Huang's body from within. In 210 BC, during a journey across the empire in search, once again, of the elixir of immortality, the emperor fell ill and died. He was 49 years old. The most likely cause, according to many scholars, is precisely mercury poisoning. The medicine of immortality killed the man who dreamed of never dying, and his death became a macabre piece of theater. He died far from the capital, on the road. His ministers feared the news would spark revolts before they reached home. So they did something grotesque. They hid the emperor's death. They kept carrying the body in the carriage as if he were alive, serving meals, delivering reports to the closed carriage. But it was summer, and the body began to smell. The minister's solution went down in history. They had a cart of rotten fish travel alongside to mask the stench of the emperor's corpse. And so the first emperor of China returned to the capital, dead and hidden behind spoiled fish. After so much power, so much fear, and so much mercury, the man who unified China ended like that. And the immortal army he had ordered created was sealed beneath the earth with him, to stand guard for eternity. It was meant to stay hidden forever. It almost did. Artiso, and those young craftsmen, history did not keep their names, but it kept their hands. On some pieces of the army, archaeologists found, hidden away, inscriptions, marks bearing the names of master potters, carved into the clay. That was how the empire controlled quality. Each craftsman answered for what he made. Artiso, which means that, hidden in some soldier's elbow, in some fold of armor, there may still exist the name of a real craftsman who lived more than 2,000 years ago. Ordinary people, anonymous in life, immortalized by accident in the clay they shaped. Because it's easy to look at the Terracotta Army and see only the emperor, only the power, only the grandeur. But each of those 8,000 soldiers is, at heart, the work of an ordinary person. Hands that ached, backs that bent, people who probably never knew why any of it mattered so much. Artiso, and the fate of these people was, often, cruel. The working conditions were brutal. It is said that many of the workers who knew the tomb's secrets were buried with it, so the secret would die with them. Near the tomb, archaeologists found pits with human remains, laborers who never went home. Artiso, we don't know whether those craftsmen escaped, or became just more forgotten names in that earth. But we know their work outlived entire empires, dynasties, invasions, and 2,200 years of silence in the dark. Few kings lasted as long as the work of an anonymous potter of Qin. When those farmers made that hole in 1974, they didn't just unearth statues. They unearthed the most detailed portrait that exists of what an army of ancient China looked like. Every hairstyle, every weapon, every piece of armor is a history lesson frozen in clay. The excavations revealed not one, but several giant pits. One of them is an underground hall the size of several soccer fields, packed with soldiers in combat formation, as if waiting for the order to advance. Others hold the cavalry, the officers, the high command. And the most astonishing part, archaeologists believe that most of it is still buried. A large share of the soldiers remains under the earth, waiting. Decades of excavation, and the army has still not been fully revealed. Every year, new faces return to the light after 2 millennia. In 1987, the site was recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Today, millions of people travel from all over the planet to stand before those rows of clay, and to feel, up close, the sheer scale of one man's obsession. Because that, in the end, is what this army is really about. The ambition of an emperor who unified a continent, the fear of a man facing death, and the silent labor of thousands of anonymous hands that turned that fear into one of the wonders of the world. Qin Shi Huang wanted to be eternal. In a dark way, he succeeded. Not through the mercury pills, but through the clay army that still stands guard, and through his name, still repeated in every corner of the planet, 2,200 years later. The China he forged, one writing, one currency, one country of many peoples, is in part still the China of today. The emperor who was terrified of vanishing may be the man who left the deepest mark on the history of an entire civilization. Artiso, and beside all of it, silent, stands the legacy of the anonymous craftsman. The empire is gone. The kings turned to dust. But what their hands touched still stands, looking forward, with the same expression it had 2,000 years ago. There is something almost frightening about meeting one of those faces. You are looking at a man someone modeled while watching another, real man. It's a portrait. Somewhere in the kingdom of Qin, 22 centuries ago, a face like that one existed. And it has survived, looking back at you. The Terracotta Army is proof of a disturbing idea. Absolute power did not defeat death. What defeated time was the labor, the clay, the work of ordinary hands. The emperor wanted eternity for himself, and the ones who won eternity were the potters he forgot to name. Today, part of those soldiers is being slowly restored. Scientists are trying, with cutting-edge technology, to save the last traces of paint before they vanish for good. It's a race against time to recover the original colors of an army that was once vibrant and full of color. And the great mountain of earth is still there, sealed, with its possible rivers of mercury, its stars made of precious stones, its emperor dead for more than 2,000 years, waiting for the day, if that day ever comes, when humanity will have the courage and the technology to open the greatest sealed box in history. Maybe it's better this way. Maybe the greatest power in this story lies precisely in what we still haven't seen. in the mystery that remains intact beneath that hill, exactly as the emperor wanted. A man was afraid to die, and because of that fear, he created something so vast that 2,200 years later, we still stop everything just to look. The army that slept 22 centuries in the dark has woken, and it still has so much to tell. So here's the question I'll leave with you. If you could, would you open the tomb of the first emperor? Would you risk uncovering the rivers of mercury and whatever else lies inside? Or would you let the secret sleep forever? Tell me down in the comments. I want to know. And if this story gripped you, huge, real, and impossible to forget, subscribe to World and Stories. Because the world is full of stories like this, buried, waiting for someone to dig a well in just the right place. 8,000 faces, no two alike, each one the work of a forgotten person. The emperor sought eternal life and found poison, but the clay his craftsman shaped defeated time, and it still stands. Until the next story.